go. All right, welcome to another episode of Patrick Sports Talk. I am joined as always by Shane and Brannan. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. We are doing this on a Saturday. We're switching our schedules around a little bit. That was for the delay over the last few weeks. We'll actually have a 2-episode drop this coming week, which is going to be really exciting. Today we're going to go through the NFL craziness, literally the craziest offseason in NFL history, and we'll go through some March Madness thoughts as well, and that will be our show for the day. Actually, before we actually go into the specific topics of the NFL, how similar is this offseason to an NBA offseason? Because the only thing I can really equate it to is like every flipping NBA offseason where everyone moves. The one, 2 years ago, the Kawhi Leonard free agency. I mean, this has been the craziest thing I've ever seen in the NFL, probably, in terms of an unbelievable. The movement, the shaking. I'm even confused on where everyone's at. It's gonna take me a while. Shane, I'll start with you. How similar has this offseason been to what we see in the NBA every summer?
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you guys the other day, it feels like, when you get to do like a Madden franchise and you do the fantasy draft and everyone's on all these weird teams and you're like, what? This is odd. But then now this is kind of like reality almost. But yeah, it almost feels like a players league, and that sort of seems to be the direction the NFL is heading based off what's been going on the last couple of years. Not fully like the NBA, I don't think, but there's a lot more player fluidity in terms of where everyone's going and just how easily they could say, yeah, I want to get traded there, and they're like, okay, yeah, I mean, just like all the quarterbacks that have moved, like that alone doesn't happen to this scale. And to a lot of people's surprise, the one guy that didn't move was Aaron Rodgers, who we all thought was going to be. But yeah, anyways.
Who I think is probably regretting
I would agree.
staying in Green Bay, considering goes to Green Bay and then loses his best piece. Not even his best piece, but his only piece.
Only piece, and he actually knew that he was going to leave too, which is crazy.
I mean, I usually am like the biggest Aaron Rodgers detractor, but like, man, if he can take that team to the playoffs again, he should get a 5th MVP. But like,
I mean, he's gonna make the playoffs. The question is, what is he gonna do in the playoffs?
Is he though? Like
that division, the NFC North is not that good.
Like Robert,
that division sucks.
He has nothing to work with.
I agree, but that division is garbage. It doesn't matter. He's gonna win the division with like 11 wins. Shane, you're thinking in your head. Go ahead.
I don't think he makes it actually.
Really?
Because I think
I'm just thinking about the division, not the scope of the conference.
Well, yeah, I mean the division itself, I don't think they win because I think Minnesota wins this year. They're just
really Minnesota,
a much more complete team. I mean they stole Zadarius Smith. They've got a good pass rush, good safeties. They could use some work on at the corner position, but like other than that, I mean they're really pretty solid. I'm not crazy about Kirk Cousins, but he's fine. Yeah, whereas Green Bay, I mean, obviously they have the better quarterback, but besides that, well, quarter and corner with Jair Alexander if he's ever healthy. But yeah, no, I think Minnesota definitely wins, and
I think Minnesota is the more complete team, but my problem is simply Kirk. I can't believe they gave him another year.
Well, I couldn't believe they gave him that much money. That was my big surprise.
Oh, they gave him that much money because he had leverage. He couldn't be franchise tagged. If he was franchise tagged, he would have gotten $60 million in 2023. $60 million. No thanks. Can you believe, by the way, do you want to know how much money Kirk Cousins has made in his career, like his career earnings?
Probably over 200.
203 million.
Yeah.
For
I
like
don't know.
a mid-range QB.
But I mean, I think the NFC West probably has 3 teams make it. Once again. And the North, I think Minnesota, so that's 4 teams. The South, Tampa wins. That's 5, and then yeah.
Who makes it out of the East? Dallas still? Probably Dallas still.
I'd say Dallas or Washington.
You really trust Carson Wentz that much to give him a playoff spot? He was so bad in Indy.
He wasn't terrible. I mean, he wasn't amazing.
He was a liability.
Yeah, but he cleaned up his turnovers quite a bit, which was nice. But I just look at the rest of Dallas because they lost a key player.
They lost so many. They lost many because they lost Lawrence. Well, actually, they paid Lawrence again on a lesser deal, but still, they lost many pieces because of cap issues.
Mm-hmm. But I think Amari Cooper is a much bigger loss for Dallas than most people seem to realize, because I saw a stat that in the last 3 seasons, Dak has won 78% of his games with Amari Cooper. That's really good. Without Amari Cooper, he's won 33%.
Yeah. Didn't they show that stat on ESPN like earlier this year too? Something
Might
like
have
that.
been.
Yeah.
Or NBC or something. But, and, if it was like, if that 33% was only for like 3 games and they went 1 and 2, I wouldn't really be that concerned because that's a pretty small sample size. But it was like 12 games.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That tells you something. So, I don't know. I'm not, and they lost. Did they lose Michael Gallup as well? I think
they paid him. That's why they got rid of Amari Cooper so they can pay Gallup. They'll if they haven't paid him, they will. I think they did.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's probably for me. It's kind of a toss up between those two. But Philly could be competitive too. I mean, they won 9 last year. Depending on who they draft, what other moves they might make. So then that kind of leaves Green Bay as like, at least for me, maybe getting a 7th seed.
Yeah, but that's in. I mean, you have 7 seeds, so
yeah. So I don't know.
Brandon, what do you think about the scope of the NFC now? Because the NFC now, I think, has lost so much firepower. What's your feeling on just the overall scope of the NFC right now going into this season?
I think the NFC is. It's kind of interesting because a good amount of, if you look at what happened with a lot of the flipping of quarterbacks, I mean, a fair amount of the quarterbacks left the NFC and went to the AFC. I think, ironically, I think we're gonna see a lot of what happened in the NFC now happening in the AFC, where like you had in a bunch of divisions teams just kind of beating up on each other, and now I think in the NFC you're gonna have your like 1 or 2 dominant teams, and then everybody else kind of like grabbing the scraps.
I was talking about the irony of all of this yesterday about what Fox is doing as well, because I think that's really interesting, because we know that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are going to ESPN, and Fox is at a position now as well where they don't have a good package anymore. I mean, the NFC was the best package to have, and now it's probably going to be the worst package, including Thursday Night Football. Because I honestly think Thursday night's actually going to have good games. I would hope that they do, but we'll see when they come out in about a month's time, actually more than a month. But like the optics of where the NFC is at, also from a network perspective for Fox, is terrible right now. It's really bad for them in terms of a network spot. But yeah, I think you're looking at one or two teams maybe, and yeah, it's going to be a really bad crapshoot of a conference. It's probably, I don't know if you agree with this, Shane, but it's probably the worst in terms of just talent in a conference we've seen in the last maybe 5 to 10 years, I think, because of how much it's flipped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting how quick that happened, really. I mean, it's been only a couple of years. Yeah, I mean, I think the only teams that really have a shot at being competitive against an AFC team in the Super Bowl this year is LA and maybe Tampa. And if Trey Lance or whoever in the world is starting at San Francisco turns out well, maybe them. But that's kind of it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really too hot on any of these other teams. Like Arizona, they've got talent, but I don't trust their coaching.
And there's optic issues there clearly now.
That too. We've already talked about the NFC North. NFC East, I mean, it's kind of the same thing as the North. And, New Orleans, I mean, they're good, but they don't have a quarterback that I think can be competitive like that.
Winston. It's going to be Winston, yeah.
And then Carolina and Atlanta seem to be rebuilding still. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty much just those three. And even of them, two of them, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
But we'll see.
So I have a couple rants today in regards to the AFC side. I want to actually start with Deshaun Watson. So I was watching the Rich Eisen show yesterday and just, looking at Deshaun Watson's press conference. And that is the single worst. Yes, I said it. The single worst introductory press conference in NFL history. I have never seen, like, we were talking about this yesterday, Shane, and I was making this example of, like, have you ever been in like a classroom and you're trying to talk to somebody and they're really, really shy? And this is not a bad thing at all, but you're really, really shy and they're kind of monotone, right? They don't have many inflection in their voice. They're very much like, it's okay, whatever, right? They're just kind of focused on what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing because you can be really focused and work hard and all these different things. But I've never seen that level. It's even worse than that, what Deshaun was yesterday. It's even worse. He was so flat and monotone, and it's like he didn't even want to be there. And I've never seen that. Like Rich Eisen said it perfectly. It felt like a funeral. It literally felt like I was watching a funeral. And you're paying the guy $230 million guaranteed over 5 years, literally one of the most lucrative contracts in NFL history. And it seriously doesn't feel like a momentous occasion. In fact, Robert, it feels freaky.
he's not gonna. The reason it probably feels like a funeral is because he's probably not gonna see a single dime of that because he's probably going to jail. Like,
Well,
I mean,
he's gonna have to pay a lot in fines in the civil cases. You're right, Brandon. That's kind
yeah,
of my
and
point.
then, but the reason I say he might be going to jail still is because the Texas judge who's reopened an actual
Criminal
is
case.
bringing another criminal case is considering bringing another criminal case, and I'm like, this is just. I mean, how much more bottom of the barrel can you get as the Cleveland Browns? Like,
That's my point. That's my point. That press conference yesterday was like the most Browns thing ever because it was the worst thing. You go from Baker Mayfield, where he acted very immaturely, which was pretty bad, obviously, to Deshaun, which is a whole new level of bad. And you're sitting here paying him $230 million, going, is he even going to play a snap? You have to bring in Jacoby Brissett just because you're so worried he's not going to play a snap. Like, this is the most Browns thing ever, and I'm like, you guys don't even know what you're doing. The lawyer, I forgot the guy's name. Is it? But it's Teddy. It's I think Teddy Bugsby. Correct, Bugsby. Bugsby said, because he's representing a lot of the civil cases, he literally said the other day that if the Browns reached out to me, I would have said, yeah, I'll give you access to my clients and you can talk to them. The Browns didn't do that. They just were like, here's one criminal case, get taken off the board. Let's go pay him a bunch of money and let's trade all of our assets.
Didn't the Browns say that they had talked to him?
They said they talked to him.
They claimed that, or what? I thought it was the Browns organization that had claimed that when they got Deshaun, they had already talked to the lawyer.
Yeah, they claimed that.
Yeah.
But then Bugsby said, "Nah, that's
yeah,
not
which
true
is
at all."
like when I heard that, I was like, oh my god, Cleveland, come on! I thought y'all were like you were like in the thing, as you said, like to think they were on the precipice of the Super Bowl at one point, and like now, good lord.
This is this is a million times worse of a situation for the Browns to be in than Baker.
I'm just gonna say this: the Seahawks better stay away from the Browns. I don't want no draft day situation happening.
Oh crap!
You don't get none of our picks.
Shane, your thoughts on Deshaun Watson's presser yesterday or the other day?
It does say a lot about the Browns that they got this guy, Kareem Hunt, who has a bit of a criminal history. Myles Garrett, who tried to kill Mason Rudolph.
There was some legal issues there too.
Yeah.
Could have been battery with a blunt object.
They're a violent bunch, but anyways.
It's really bad.
Yeah. No, I was kind of surprised that Deshaun Watson was getting all these offers because, even if he's innocent, which I highly doubt, like he still has a lot of cases that he's going to have to deal with. And like Brandon said, there's a chance that he's going to jail. I mean, why would you take that risk if you're going to be paying this guy a lot, investing your future in him? This doesn't seem worth it, But I think the Browns ultimately are not a very well-run organization in the grand scheme of things. So, I mean, it makes sense. Same with, Atlanta and Carolina. New Orleans, I generally have a more positive opinion of, but, whatever. So, I don't know. I just think it's strange. And the fact that Goodell hasn't he hasn't been placed on the commissioner's exempt list, or he hasn't been suspended or anything. He still might, but this has been going on for a year now, and nothing has happened. So
the reality of that situation, I think he should have been put on the commissioner's exempt list before the season in August. I said that straight up. I said he should have been put on the exempt list from day one. But I think the NFL is sitting there going, hey, look, he didn't play a year. He wasn't even in the spotlight. I think it's bad for the NFL that he even had an introductory press conference. I think that was actually really bad because he can't say crap. I mean, he just can't. I mean, he was asked a question. He was asked a question of like, why 40 masseuses? And he gave the most stupidest answer ever, being like, I was just going around, whatever. It was going around just trying to find the right person, whatever. And his lawyer, actually, I remember when this story broke, his lawyer said, oh, it was because of COVID. That's literally what his lawyer said. And now about a year later, he's not even saying that in the introductory press conference. And his lawyer was like, hey, be careful what you say.
So can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Yes, go ahead.
So I just had the thought, right? So you have two leagues, two different players, two very different ways of doing things. MLB and NFL. MLB with
Bauer.
With Bauer.
Bauer.
Right? Yeah, this is exactly. MLB with Bauer. Like just by having a case come up with one of their players, boom, immediately suspended.
Hasn't played ever.
Hasn't played. Taken off the field, put on the sidelines, put on the suspension list, like just chilling. And they extended his suspension.
They've extended it 6 times.
Yeah, these and even after he quote unquote got like let off the hook by the judge.
It doesn't matter. He's not playing. He's not at spring training.
I'd be shocked if he ends up playing. But the difference is, meanwhile, the NFL, it shows me, as much crap as you can talk about MLB, they at least show that they care about issues like this. Whereas the NFL does not give a crap.
They might even enjoy the firestorm. I mean, honestly. I mean, if you look at the Ray Rice thing, I always think about the Ray Rice thing and how bad that was for the league. And you can make an argument that ratings-wise, it was huge. Because you remember that Thursday night game they had like a week later. They were playing on Thursday Night Football on CBS. And I think the ratings were through the roof. Because all they were talking about is Ray Rice. And it pisses me off. And let's not even talk about the MLB. Let's talk about the NBA. Even this is much different, obviously, with substance abuse. But Tyreek Evans playing in the G League now, he was suspended for 2 years with drug abuse. They don't give a crap. I mean, if you have anything from, obviously sexual assault is much, much worse, but from sexual assault, drugs, whatever, you get the hammer down. And the NFL, you're right, Brandon, simply does not really care. And you can make a substantial argument that there's something about this Deshaun Watson thing that they enjoy because they're in the news. Shane, your thoughts?
Well, I have a lot, but it just, and it kind of shows some irony as well, because when you have Deshaun Watson, he has all these really serious allegations against him. And the fact that the NFL doesn't even seem to like really care about it is kind of weird. But also, then it pisses me off, because then like Josh Gordon smokes weed and is suspended for a year. Or
his whole career has been suspended because of that.
Yes. Or Calvin Ridley betting $1,500 on a few games he wasn't playing in, suspended for the year.
Yeah, I mean, gambling is a really harsh thing for the leagues, but like Yeah, you're right. Like,
no, and don't get me wrong, I don't agree that he should have done it. If you're playing in the league, you shouldn't be betting on it. I definitely, I'm with the NFL in that regard. But
nothing for Deshaun Watson, which is a much bigger situation.
But suspending that guy for gambling $1,500 for an entire year, and then Deshaun Watson has 22 really
civil
cases against him. Nothing.
We're gonna have an introductory press conference. What?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What? Yeah. I don't know. It's just strange. I mean, I guess their thing is they just are. They're only wanting to do it if he actually is found guilty.
But it's 22 civil cases. I mean, that alone, and we read them. We read some of the cases. I mean, it was brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and who knows? Maybe it's not true and it's all just whatever, like he says it is. But I really highly doubt 22 people all lied about the same guy, and I don't know.
And what I mean by we read them is, I remember when it came out, ESPN had that huge article, and they described some of the it probably is still up, and it's honestly a really bad article. It was a harsh read. And I remember reading it going, God, like, yeah. My other rant, more NFL heavy or focused, I should say, is the Tyreek Hill trade. What the frick was that trade?
That tells you where the league is at, what the priorities are in the league.
So I'm going to focus on this, and I'll let you guys focus on some of the other pieces. I just want to get this out there first. I'm going to focus on the Chiefs side of this situation, and I'm going to focus on it from a salary cap basis. So from the Chiefs side, here's the reality. Even a mid-level receiver in the next 5 years of the NFL draft is going to get paid good money, and they're going to be good receivers. Look at how good the receivers are across the NFL. You could make an argument that it's actually an oversaturated position. That's a positive thing. Positive that the wide receiver position is really, really good right now, and it's going to continue to get better. So first things first is that was part of the Chiefs' logic. Is like, hey, we can get these picks. We can get another receiver that we can build. Cool. Fine. That's okay. And in 2023, if we pay Tyreek Hill, we're going to lose a lot of pieces. But that doesn't even make much sense either, because the New Orleans Saints had minus $82 million in cap room this offseason. And in a week and a half, they went to plus $12 million. In a week and a half. And you are telling me that on top of all of this, you're paying Patrick Mahomes a 10-year contract worth $500 million, but realistically, in terms of stipulations, it's like $170 million. Still a lot of goddamn money. And you're paying him for a decade. And in one of the best starts to a career in NFL history in Patrick Mahomes. And you're going to give away your best weapon for a bunch of picks when you could clearly pay him. And it's on the ownership. That was this is on the Chiefs ownership being like, hey, we don't want to spend the money. That's literally what this whole thing was about. And then for the Dolphins, I'm like, do you guys really think this is going to work? Do you guys really think this is actually going to work?
No.
Tua cannot throw the ball over 50 yards consistently in Tyreek Hill. He's just not the type of quarterback. You are literally getting nothing. I mean, you are getting an amazing receiver, but receivers don't win you championships. And yet you're giving up 5 picks. What? Both sides, this trade does not make sense. it would have been better if the Jets were involved. If the Jets were involved and they were in there instead of Miami, I would have been a lot happier with the Jets side. I would have been, yes, perfect.
And then,
Jets.
and then my favorite part about this whole story is, I don't know if you saw this, but Chiefs fans were tweeting at DK saying, "Oh, DK, you should come to Kansas City." And Kansas City's like, and then DK's like, "Well, don't leave the door open too long. I heard it gets cold at night in Kansas City." Basically being like, "Nah, I ain't coming to Kansas City. I like it where I am." I'm convinced that Seattle's going to pay him the money he deserves.
He will get the money.
He's going to get the money because the thing is, DK, I'm impressed with everything. And I know this was a side tangent, but
yeah,
everything I've heard come out of DK's mouth since Russell Wilson has left has impressed me about him.
He's excited about
Seattle. He is excited. He is stepping forward. He is talking like someone who is filling the role of leader. And honestly, I don't think Russell was ever the locker room leader.
Yeah.
I don't think he was ever the team leader. I think he was the just because he's the quarterback, the media was like, "Oh, he's the leader."
Yeah.
I think Tyler Lockett was the leader. I think DK Metcalf was the leader.
Go ahead, Shane. You can continue on this, and then
I think Russell was, like, when those guys were kind of coming in, you know. But then, you know, the last 2-3 years, when he sort of started to quote unquote check out, then yeah, like you were saying.
But also, just to finish up with the Chiefs before I let you guys go on the trade, the Chiefs, to replace Tyreek Hill, picked up Juju on a 1 year, $10.5 million deal, $10 million.
Now.
So Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS, Valdez Scantling, 3 years, $36 million.
So that's
your replacements. That's your replacements.
Okay,
MVS
so
and Juju.
You could make the argument that they've basically picked up two players that were like together are the equivalent of like Tyreek, but like they're both
down.
They're both like middling players who on their own are just kind of like B minus average, like like a second, a wide receiver 2. You basically taken away a wide receiver 1 plus, and like given him a wide receiver 2 negative.
Yeah,
but essentially, like two wide receiver 2 negatives. Like
exactly, that's my point. This is why this is stupid,
and it's funny because you know how I've been like preaching for the last 3 years, basically like it's coming. Like the Chiefs they're falling apart. Like I've been saying, I didn't expect this to be the direction they went. I did not expect them to trade, to actively destroy their team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying the same thing, but like you, I wasn't expecting this. I was like, whoa.
For them to actively take the step to like send away players, I'm like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I mean, I think what Tyreek did for them is the yards after catch.
Mm-hmm.
That was his big thing, because you know when you watch them, yeah, Mahomes is great. He runs around, can extend plays, does his whatever crazy stuff, but a lot of times he would throw to Tyreek because either his speed could get him open when he probably shouldn't have been, or he just hits him on a regular route and Tyreek outruns everybody.
He also has a great catch radius.
Yeah, that too. And now, you know, I think a lot of the plays where Mahomes looked like amazing because he was doing all this stuff, I think a lot of it was because of him too, you know. I mean, I just like I was telling Robert, I think honestly, Tyreek Hill in the last few years has been responsible for about 20% of the Chiefs' success. Like just Tyreek alone. And then Mahomes, same with him. Kelsey, the few good defensive pieces they had, which are also now gone. and their coaching staff. Like, yeah, the offensive line's good, but it doesn't really matter because Mahomes' style of play is so loose and very improv centered. But, you know, I don't know. Like, that's the thing that they lose with Tyreek, and very few people can duplicate that, if anybody, and it certainly is not Juju or MVS. So
again, I think the final aspect of this, which is maybe if you're a Chiefs fan, I'm sorry, but like this is the fact. That division is the best division in football. And you went from the best team in that division 3 years ago by a mile to the worst team in that division.
Well, it's interesting because I was just thinking, like, are we gonna see a repeat of what it was like with Russell? Like, where you had like 4 amazing years of very successful quarterback play, and then just kind of middling out.
It's interesting. Their careers so far have been oddly similar.
Mm-hmm.
Their first season, well, okay, not Mahomes' rookie season because he didn't start, but we'll say Russell's rookie season versus
Mahomes' second year, starting year.
His first starting year. That's what we'll call it. Their first years, they are sensational quarterbacks. One is MVP. Russell was not, but I mean, everyone was talking about him. It was like a new big thing. Second year, they win a Super Bowl. Third year, they lose the Super Bowl to Tom Brady. Fourth year, the team gets a little worse. They're still good, but it's like, you're starting to see some holes. And then after that, then it was just like, oh, it went from 60 down to about 40 real fast,
I just think about, I think it's a lot worse because I honestly think that the Chiefs are like at a position where you can make an argument they're in rebuilding mode for how many pieces they've lost. For what, the O-line is still there. It felt like last year they were like, this is our year. This is our last year to make this work. And it was only the second year of a 10-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, guys, really? Like, and again, I feel like a lot of it's on the ownership too, because they're not willing to spend the money. Salary cap is just a number, honestly. And you're not willing to do something with that when the Saints are willing to spend money like gangbusters just to keep guys around. And the Rams will do anything, regardless of what Stan Kroenke has felt about it, which I tell you, he hasn't felt great about it. They got a ring out of it. So he's happy about it now, and he's willing to trust it now. And the Saints have still been doing it because they know what they're doing. And the Chiefs, with a quarterback that you're going to have presumably for the next 8 years of this organization, if everything goes right, let's just assume.
He probably gets traded, I bet.
Amazingly, considering everything across the league, I think Mahomes' contract's actually fairly tradable,
or he demands to leave. I feel like, I don't know. I don't see it lasting the whole 10 years, personally.
Let's flip to the Dolphins side of this trade. Brandon, what does this do for Miami?
Nothing. Like, yeah. I want to say it does something, but like, okay, cool. You get a flashy player, maybe you'll be able to like sell some more tickets. But like, I don't know. I'm assuming Miami is going to draft a quarterback in the draft. If they even have a pick that they can.
I don't think so. I think they're going to
quarterback with. Are they?
McDaniels said he wants Tua to start. So.
What? Why? Tua has done nothing.
Yeah, why do all of Tua's coaches?
Why? Like, why? So yeah, like
I don't get it.
I've said the same thing through the last. No, he has done nothing to showcase any NFL competence. And like you could have gone out and gotten anyone.
They didn't even care about the QB market this year. You saw they were like silent the whole offseason.
Okay, maybe they just want to suck this year. Maybe they just want the number 1 pick so they can get like a quarterback down. I don't know. All I know is like if for people saying like for the people saying that the Seahawks are going to be like the bottom of the barrel, shut your mouth and look at the Miami Dolphins. Like, God damn.
I think it's really funny the way you described it, but no, I'm out on Tua too. I'm at the point where I'm out. Like I'm just out.
Like I would honestly rather have Jalen Hurts over Tua at this point. Like
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Because at least with Tua, you get a running component.
Or Hurts.
You mean with Hurts, you get a running component?
Yeah, sorry. Ooh.
Well, no, here's the thing. With Hurts, you get a running component, and you get someone who you actually know is going to probably make a logical decision.
Yeah.
Maybe like 80% of the time, whereas with Tua, it's like 42.37% of the time.
The only way I could really see Tyreek actually improving the Dolphins is if they have him as like, this sounds so stupid, but it's the only thing I can think of. If they have him as like a glorified slot receiver.
That's my thought too.
That was literally what I just thought. Just send him like,
just have him run like slants.
Yeah.
And posts and just easy throws for 2.
Yeah.
And then
just like pick up the yard.
Hopefully he runs for touchdowns.
And then hopefully he can outrun like 3 defensive backs.
Well, like that's not a bad. It wouldn't be a bad move because like.
I mean,
Tua can make the small little check down throws and like it's Tyreek Hill. Like,
but Tyreek's not gonna have fun. He's not gonna have fun there. He's not gonna have fun doing
He's gonna catch the ball. Like he'll probably end up. He's probably, if they did that, he'd probably end up being like the top receiving. He'd be a fantasy like juggernaut. Just like, hello, I would like you, please.
And then because then by like a few weeks in, he's gonna be catching all these 10-yard passes, and he's like, oh, I remember when I used to catch 70-yard bombs from Mahomes.
Remember when I used to have like 12 touchdowns by this point in the. Well, imagine if Denver had gone out and gotten Tyreek. Like, think about Russell throwing.
You know what's funny? All 32 teams got offered Tyreek.
Really?
Every single team apparently got offered Tyreek Hill.
I got a question why the hell the Denver Broncos weren't like, we want a guy who Russell who
they have some depth at receiver though. So
I mean, I'm gonna
young depth.
Slow your roll there, Robert. I'm like, okay, here. Can I just like?
Yeah, go. Yeah, you're good. Go.
I thought the same thing that lots of people think about Denver's wide receiver talent last year. And I bought in on it, and I freaking bought in on it in fantasy. And I played their stupid-ass wide receivers at fantasy, and they got me nothing. Nothing.
Well,
they're terrible.
Look who was throwing to him, yeah.
If you're a good wide receiver, it shouldn't matter who's throwing to you. Like,
I mean, even Calvin had Matthew Stafford.
But here's the thing. It wasn't even overthrows or stuff like that. They were dropping the ball.
I will agree. They had bad drops all season.
I mean, like, they're not amazing. I think the receiving room in Seattle that he left was
way better.
Twice as good.
You could argue that our wide receiver room is like getting up there in terms of like top like.
But I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's bad. You could do way worse.
Yeah, true. You could be Miami.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Detroit.
Yeah.
New York. Yeah.
Speaking of Jalen Hurts, we were tabling this argument for about 2 weeks. I love Malik Willis. And Shane, you don't. I want Seattle to draft Malik so bad.
No.
I think
why?
He's not. I don't think he's gonna work with Pete Carroll. That's
he's literally a tall Jalen Hurts.
And I don't know how that's a bad thing. He also can throw better than Jalen.
Because, okay, I mean, yeah, okay. He's a taller Jalen Hurts with a slightly better arm. But even then, Hurts leaves a lot to be desired. I've looked at Willis' tape, and I mean, yeah, he's obviously very gifted athletically and, with his arm. But he has really bad judgment with the ball. He makes a lot of really stupid throws, bad reads, and not only that, but really inaccurate as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's completing around 60% of his throws, which when you're playing in sort of a not so great college conference,
You have to be like 66, 67.
That's really concerning.
I'm gonna look him up.
I don't understand what everyone sees in him. I don't see it at all. He's fast. He has a strong arm, but that's kind of it. And as we've seen, and the reason why I say all this is because as we've seen, when a quarterback has those two traits, but not the other two, it doesn't go well. They just don't. They don't do well. We look at Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he had one great year, and since then he's kind of been questionable.
Okay, so here was his 2021 at Liberty. Played 13 games, 207 completions on 339 attempts, a percentage of 61.1, 2,856 yards, and a TD to interception ratio of 27-12, with a passer rating of 151.1.
Yeah, I mean that's okay. I mean that's not bad, but it's I don't look at that and think like, oh wow, I want that guy.
I was really impressed by his combine, and that's where I was like, oh, this guy has
doesn't mean shit, Robert. It's no, seriously, like if you base things off the combine, look at, okay, for instance, the Legion of Boom, Sherman, Thomas, Chancellor, 3 incredible players in their prime.
Sherman did not have a good combine. I remember that.
All 3 of them were crap in the combine. You watch them and you would have gone, yeah, they deserve to be like 5th, 6th round picks.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the combine is stupid. It means nothing. It just shows them working out, which, I mean, yeah, cool. But like, let me actually see them in a game, going up against guys, getting hit, getting thrown around, see what they do.
Yeah.
That's when you learn about them.
I feel like the combine this year was really interesting, though, just because of the, I guess, like, so a couple things. First, this is a fast class. Oh, yeah. This class is so fast. It's unbelievable. And I'm just like, okay, this is a class too, where we could see stars in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Even the 7th round, we could see superstars.
Anyways.
True. But I think with this class, you could see multiple guys like that. Yeah. Multiple Pro Bowl, all pro level guys in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round. And I haven't felt that about a draft in a long time. It's really balanced.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good defensive players too this year. I'm noticing, which is nice because we need some more defense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Give me your guys' overall thoughts on the AFC West. Like every single team, what are your overall thoughts on this division?
I think the Chiefs are finishing last in the division. Hot take, I know, but I mean, look, I know they've got Mahomes, and he's great, obviously, but they lost some really key pieces to that defense. and they're pretty much going to have to win in shootouts now. And without Tyreek, that is going to be really hard. Let's see. I think the most complete team in the division is definitely the Chargers. They really don't have a massive hole. Like, I mean, they could probably improve their offensive guards a little. But they got Rashawn Slater, Corey Linsley on the line, really good guys. I forget the right tackle's name, but yeah, and I mean they've got Bosa,
Mac.
now.
Mac was so underrated in Chicago because of how bad Chicago was. People weren't talking about him, and he was still wreaking havoc.
It's like the Stafford thing, He was amazing in Detroit, but no one cared about him because they suck. So but yeah, and then obviously you have a pretty good secondary there as well.
Derwin's going to be healthy, hopefully.
Yep. My only concern with I almost said San Diego. My only concern with LA is their coaching. I think Brandon Staley is good for the most part. I think he just situationally is questionable.
Oh, it was really bad last year.
Yeah. I'm hoping that can improve. Yeah, because right now, honestly, I see that as their biggest setback. Which, if that's your biggest setback, you're in pretty good shape, and I'm not as high in Denver as most people, I think. Because I look at that defense and it's good, but I think part of what made them so good was Vic Fangio, because he is such a good defensive coach. And they add Randy Gregory, which is nice.
They overpaid him. Yes, massively.
Yeah. But getting rid of Shelby Harris, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like they're not gonna have an amazing pass rush. His secondary is great, but like the pass rush, I don't know. And then on offense, I mean, the offensive line is still really bad.
Well, like that's what I was gonna say. I think Russell's gonna get pancaked all day long again.
Yeah, like I think that they are. Like, I think Seattle's offense was way better than Denver's. Like, I think that Denver's offensive line is as bad as Seattle's, if not worse, honestly. Receivers are not bad, but they're a little worse. I do like Javonte Williams, though. I think he's gonna.
They're bringing back Melvin, though, so he's gonna be capped.
That's true.
He's gonna be capped again, which I kind of don't like, but whatever.
But still, they won 7 games last year, and with the addition of Russell Wilson, that probably gives them 2-3 more wins, I'd imagine. And Vegas, man, if they can improve the left side of that offensive line a little bit, that offense is going to be scary. Carr, Devontae, Renfro, Waller, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake.
I mean, they were already pretty filthy last year. Like,
they were already pretty good, but like now
they were inconsistent last year, and now that inconsistency goes out the window when you have a number 1 receiver.
Yeah, now that you have Devontae. Well, like just the fact that you had Devontae and you kept like Renfro and like all these guys. Yeah, if they don't win the division, I don't know what they're doing.
Well, I don't know about their defense. That's my biggest issue with Vegas.
Yeah, but like you look at
Yeah.
the Chiefs, and the Chiefs prove that you don't need a defense to win the division.
I feel like this year you will, though. I think the Chargers are going to win the division because I honestly think that they have a more complete defense.
I think it's one of those two. I will say. I think it's either LA or
Vegas.
I will say this about
I'll say this Oakland.
I'll say this about Denver. I think Denver jumped the gun on getting a quarterback.
You don't think they're ready yet?
I don't think they're ready. Two things. One, I think that they saw an opportunity to get a quarterback and they were like, "Oh my God, Russell Wilson, he's so good, like top tier quarterback. Let's get him." Problem is, you should only go for the quarterback like that. You should only go for the buy of a quarterback if you're like going to be in a position to like guarantee
win a Super Bowl.
Go for the Super Bowl. They are not guaranteed for that spot in the Super Bowl right now.
There was a few NFL executives when that trade went down that they were like so messed up. They were like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Because here's the thing with the Russell trade. It's like this is the Peyton Manning thing all over again. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago. This is the Peyton Manning thing all over again. If they don't win a Super Bowl, this trade is a waste.
Well, they've also been saying that like, they also a lot of them said like once again, Denver buys a quarterback. They can't find themselves a quarterback.
They can't draft one. They can't draft one, and they haven't been able to.
And here's the other problem that they run into, right? They have 2 years to win a Super Bowl, and then they have to give Russell Wilson $50 million.
Yeah,
pretty much.
That's a dumb move, in my opinion, honestly. And if I'm a Broncos fan, and I'm sitting there after all the hype is worn off, I'm probably sitting there going, "What the hell did we do? We got an aging quarterback who is good, but on the other side of good in his career.
Other side of prime.
Other side of prime in his career. He like Seattle got the best out of him, in my opinion. We got the best years out of him, and this is not even like a fandom perspective.
That's the same thing that happened with the Colts, like with Peyton and Denver.
Exactly.
Too.
As you said, it is literally Peyton Manning again. I agree with you. Yes. And I think a lot of people, I think this is the same opinion of everybody in the league. Of all the high up like GMs in the league. And I think a lot of GMs in the league are probably going, "Thank you, Denver, for taking the Russell Wilson deal and not making us take it, because if someone didn't take it, they would have looked really stupid."
Also, this division is just so good that like Denver's sitting here going like, "Uh-oh." Like they're worried they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. The difference between this team and the Manning Broncos team, though, is that team, they actually had a good offensive line.
Yeah.
Great defense.
They had incredible pieces on offense.
An amazing, well-rounded defense. This team, like, yeah, the defense is good, but it's not that good.
And this team is a 7-8 win team. Like, yeah, frankly.
And then you add Russell, and I think
I don't know, man. I don't think Russell.
You guys are turning me around on Denver because I'm thinking about this roster. I'm like, yeah, this defense is good.
I don't think
this receiving core is gonna be better, but it's like it's still gonna be all on Russell.
Shane, I don't think Russell is. I don't think he's a +2-3 win quarterback.
Vegas, like, I think thinks so.
Vegas is on crack half the time. Like,
yeah, I don't trust Vegas.
I think Russell is like a 1.5-2 win, +1.5 2. I don't think you could give him a +3. Like I could see them
like because you said they're a 7-8 win team, which I agree. So then therefore I think he makes 10, 9 or 10 win.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I thought you were saying like 10 or 11, which I think is like unrealistic. 9 or 10, I think, is definitely in the realistic category.
Not.
And the other thing you have to think about is, why do you think Seattle wanted the tight end we got from Denver so badly?
Oh, Noah Fant's going to be amazing. He's
Because
actually
he
one of the best young
blocks.
tight end, and he's a blocking tight end.
He
He blocks really
blocks.
well too. But he's a great tight
I watched
end.
a lot of Broncos, dude. I watched a lot of Broncos games last year,
And
and
he
like
did block
for
really
the
well. I
last
forgot
couple
about
years,
that piece.
he's like a great run blocker. He opens holes for the running backs. When they had Melvin Gordon at his prime, in that running scheme, they were getting major yards with him because he was able to block and open holes. And I'm like, okay, I now know why they wanted him.
But I think Drew Lock is also going to be interesting because we'll see what they do at quarterback. We'll see. But interestingly enough, his introductory press conference, it felt like they were introducing their starter.
Oh, he definitely is the starter.
And I'm like, okay, like I can work with this for a year at 18 million, 19 million dollars.
Yeah.
Like I don't mind this necessarily. I think they should still go out and get a quarterback in this draft.
Oh, they're going to. I think they're going to. My thing with Locke is that I think he could work with a guy like Pete Carroll, like kind of a coach who is more coddling, more like more of a like quote unquote father figure coach than an asshole who's just going to yell at him. No offense to Vic Fangio, but like, you know.
Before we finish up on the NFL, Brandon, what do you think of Bobby Wagner's destinations? He met with the Ravens yesterday. He met with the Rams earlier in the week. Dallas and Denver, I think, are still pretty much in the mix. Where do you feel he's going to end up?
The rumors right now are the Rams, but I don't think. I think Bobby wants to go somewhere where he could like actually have a chance of getting a ring, another ring. I don't think he goes to LA, because even though he is an LA guy, that would be a big fucking like middle finger to the Seahawks fans if he went to the Rams. He'd be like, "Screw y'all, I hate you, goodbye."
Would it be to the fans though, or
it would be to the fans?
It would be to the organization.
I think it'd be more to the fans. I think because think about it, like, yes, it would be to the organization,
in his mind.
But okay, in his mind, it would be to the organization, but like the way it would look to like the fans would be like, okay, so you don't care about like, because at the very least, Russell made the decision like, I'm leaving the NFC. Like, I can't hurt you directly. I think Bobby will end up either Ravens or Cowboys. And probably the Ravens at the end of the day. And the reason I say the Ravens is because he could go to the Cowboys and be with
They're gonna get rid of Leighton. That's why they're doing it.
And be with what's his name? Our old defensive.
Be with Dan Quinn.
Quinn.
I forgot about that.
But I don't know if they have the money. So
yeah. What are you thinking, Shane? I'm honestly thinking Ravens because I feel like he just fits that prototype of like a Ravens linebacker.
Yeah, I'd say Rams or Ravens personally. I don't know. I mean, LA, they did just win the Super Bowl, and they still do have a pretty good team. So like, it would make sense if he's trying to win, even though statistically, they probably won't repeat. But you never know. But yeah, Ravens, you know, it seems like a good scheme fit, good prototype. I don't know. I've heard that he wasn't really interested in Dallas. Don't know how true that is. And then Denver, I don't even know if Denver can afford him, honestly, at this point. So, yeah, I don't know, but LA would also make sense just because you know they're already winning. He'd probably, you know, he's probably got a bone to pick with the Seahawks organization, understandably. I mean, you know, guys.
They treated him terribly when he got released.
The guy is a legend for the team for a decade. don't even send him a phone call or a text message saying, here's what we're thinking. Nothing. Found out on Instagram that he was getting cut. And they called him after the fact. Oh, hey, by the way. He's like, yeah, I saw. Like,
that happens. I've been
That's-
talking.
that's
I've
so
been
frustrating.
I've been talking about this. That happens a lot more than you
Oh, I
would
know.
think. It does, and it's really stupid.
I know. It makes me mad.
I've been talking about this since it happened to like everybody, and I was like, yeah, this actually happens a lot more than you think.
Yeah.
It's really stupid. Let's move on to some March Madness. What have your guys' thoughts been on the tournament so far? Brannan, I'll start with you.
I haven't really been gotten a chance to watch a lot of the games, but I'm rooting for St. Pete's. Just rooting for the team from Brooklyn.
Is that where they're from?
They're
Yeah.
from isn't it Long Island area?
Well,
Jersey City?
Jersey, Brooklyn, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure if someone from New York was listening, they would be like, "I'm gonna come find you and up." But
Wasn't Queens, or isn't Brooklyn technically on Long Island?
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
But it's just not Long Island proper. Anyways, yeah.
There's been some interesting upsets. Like all the number one seeds are out. All the Pac-12 teams are gone.
Kansas City's still in, or Kansas. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, Kansas is the only
wow,
one.
Jayhawks. Oh wow. Oh my goodness. Who cares? The only thing I care about is somebody hasn't stomped Duke into the ground yet.
Duke has had some tough games this
I
whole
wish
tournament.
they'd gotten kicked out in the first round so that we could shut up about hearing about Coach Kane.
I actually enjoyed the Coach K.
I hate that guy. I think he's a
really
terrible
Coach K is a
person.
legend.
Dude, he is a terrible person. He is a horrible, horrible person. He no, he's a dick. UNC apparently, if it's gonna be interesting because if Duke survives,
and UNC win, they're playing the Final Four.
If Duke survives against St. Pete's, then no, it's Duke and Arkansas. My bad.
Yeah. St. Pete's is playing UNC.
Ooh. As much as I would like to see Duke and UNC in the Final Four, I'd much rather the story of St. Pete's.
Yeah.
It's nothing else really. I mean, it's not like we didn't really have like the Virginia losing as a number one, losing to a 16 again sort of situation. But
we were close with Gonzaga.
Yeah,
very close. Speaking of Gonzaga, Shane, you were talking about their schedule, their regular season schedule, and I think you're right. That's a huge reason why they've been so bad in the tournament.
Yeah, let me pull it up actually, because there's a few interesting things about it. Because when they're in the regular season, they look great and everyone hypes them up. And then they get to the tournament and they play an actual team and they lose. So why is this significant? Let me tell you. Here's some of the teams they played in the regular season this year. And I'm just going to say this before I even get into it. I haven't even heard of half of these schools. Okay. Dixie State. Whatever the hell that is. Alcorn State. Bellarmine. Central Michigan. Let's see. What else is there? Tarleton. Merrimack. Who else? Pacific. It's who even are these people?
The only substantial competition they have every single year is St. Mary's. That's it. In the regular season, it's literally just St. Mary's.
So do you think they should You think they should move to another division, to another
I think they should just have a better. It's fine that they're in the WAC. I don't care if they're in the WAC. I care about their competition. They should play better teams.
Every time they play, or they played a ranked opponent this year, not every time, but most of the time, they lost. Okay, Duke, they lost. Alabama, ranked 16, lost. St. Mary's, 23 at the time, lost. They did beat St. Mary's another time.
That they always split during the early season. That's fine.
And they did beat UCLA, which was impressive, and Texas. But that was at the very beginning of the year, so, you know. But yeah, I think until they play legit opponents throughout the year, I don't think we can take them seriously as an actual contender.
And they were the overall number 1 seed this year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have such an easy path in the regular season. Whereas these other schools, they've been playing good teams all year. They're ready for it. So, you know, Gonzaga, they hype themselves up thinking, yeah, we're great. We're the number 1, you know. But they kind of come in with their, you know, their foot off the gas, so to speak. And then they're just playing all these good teams who have something to prove, who have been playing tough teams all year. They're ready for that kind of competition, and they're going full steam ahead, like we saw with Arkansas. And then there you go. You know, I mean, they've come close a couple times last year. Baylor, about 6-7 years ago against North Carolina in the championship. But you know, those, when you look at those rosters, like they all had NBA level players on those teams. That's why they got that far.
The only NBA guys check Holmgren for Gonzaga this year. That's it.
And even he's like not. I mean, I know he's predicted to be number 1 overall, but when I watch him, I'm honestly not that impressed. I mean, he's fine. You know, don't get me wrong, but I look at him, I'm like, really? Is he a number 1 pick? Like, I mean,
this is a weak class. It's not a great class either.
That's true. I guess it's because of his size, but still. I mean, he's like half the player Jalen Suggs was, you know, or is, I guess. But yeah. Anyway,
I'll focus on St. Mary's and Purdue, particularly the game yesterday, because Purdue fascinates me every year in the tournament. They fascinate me because they are big. I mean, they play big ball. I mean, they had their center up on the game yesterday. I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is so weird. The fact that, and I think this is actually a big reason why Purdue is not very successful in the tournament, because I don't think they can spread the floor ever. They don't really have a 3-point shooter. They're all about just size. And St. Peter's, while they didn't necessarily hit a really great 3-point percentage, which is why the game was close. If they hit a good 3-point percentage, they would have won the game by like 10 yesterday. But like, that's why they're not good in the tournament, because they can't really spread the ball around. But it's also interesting because Purdue plays basketball like it's 2012. And like, basketball has evolved so much in the 3-point era. And I get it. Like, college kids are not necessarily the best from 3 in general. But the college game hasn't really changed. Like, that's why Purdue's really, really good. And that's why people always talk about Purdue's size, because Purdue's size is an actual thing. And it's really stressful for teams in most cases. And it reminds me a lot of what the Cavs are this year, because the Cavs are also have like this really extended team filled with a lot of size. And they've actually been really good, because I honestly think the 3-point, or this year, while it has been important, it's still been used a lot. The parity across leagues a lot different. And teams are better at different things over their season. And that's why Cleveland's been good, because they've been able to leverage that size. But it is interesting seeing what Purdue has done over the last 5 years in the tournament and how much college basketball in general hasn't like evolved to where the NBA is at. But on top of that, like, it's funny, I still think St. Peter's is maybe still the best team here. Like, they're not like a 15 seed that like just slouches around. They actually play really, really good, like not like mid-major level basketball, but like major, like Power 5 level basketball this whole tournament. And it's been amazing to watch, where I honestly think they can make the Final Four and actually win the national championship. They're not here slouching around at all.
Yeah. You know, I think what's so interesting about them is that they've really adapted in every game to their opponent. You know, and credit to the coaching there, because they know how different teams play, whether it's a physical team like Purdue, like you were saying, or whatever. And they game plan for it, and not only do they game plan, but they execute really well. You know, so I mean, I think that they are definitely a really well-rounded team in that regard. And you know, it's hard to say that they could win it when they did ultimately come in as a 15 seed and no one expected them to go anywhere. You know, it's like, it almost feels too good to be true, but I don't know. It's exciting. Yeah.
Before we go, Brandon, I'll start with you. I did actually want to make sure that we remember the professor, John Clayton, who tragically passed away last week. So Brandon, I'll start with you, especially for us here locally in Seattle. John Clayton does mean a lot to us in our, Seattle sports community. So I'll start with you. What impact did John Clayton make on you?
Yeah, John Clayton, I'm sure like Robert and I, especially as communication majors and just like people who grew up in Seattle and sport, like really listen to sports. I mean, it had a big impact on me. He was really like the first like reporter locally and nationally who kind of, I was like, oh, you can be kind of more than just shock jock sports radio, yelling about things. Best sports analyst out there for a long time. And I think a lot of sports fans in Seattle will miss him.
Shane, what about you, John Clayton?
Yeah, you know, it was kind of interesting how when I heard the news, and you guys probably remember this, at first I was like, you said, Brandon said in the chat, oh, John Clayton died. And at first I was like, who? Because I just knew of him as the professor.
Yeah.
And then I looked it up, I was like, oh yeah. But you know, that just goes to show, you know, how much he loved the game, and you know, how much he knew about it, and yeah, just the kind of the fun angle he always had at it, just being, you know, kind of this funny older guy, like, well, actually, you know, and yeah, and it's just weird knowing, because it feels like he's been around forever, which he has. But then I looked and he was only 67, you know, and it was just like, I was like, dang, gone so soon, but yeah, no, it's that was definitely surprising to hear, but glad we got to have him.
Yeah. John Clayton, legend not only in Seattle sports, but also Pittsburgh sports, was something I did not know about. The Pittsburgh Steelers also had a great tribute for him as well. And ESPN did. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid growing up, listening to like 710 ESPN Seattle, now 710 Seattle Sports, the first voice I would hear, or one of the first voices I would hear, like, mid-drive on the way to school, was John Clayton. And he always had a really good perspective on different things. As Brannan said, he wasn't just like Stephen A. shock kind of type or just funny type. He was just someone who cared about telling the game like it was. And I think looking back on how broadcasting is going to evolve, and has evolved, I think, over the last 10, 20 years, or at least in my lifetime, I should say, because that's what, 20 years. Broadcasting has evolved to be a lot of just like, oh yeah, we're going to do shock value. We're going to have these really interesting segments. What do you think? How can I make this, really out there points or whatever? But like Clayton always stayed the same through that. And he was always someone who was able to just come on the air and say, oh, here's this source, here's this thing, here's my thought on it. And it was always so impressive how his tone was always really, really, that's one thing I appreciate about John Clayton, was his voice and his tone and how he approached it in that way. And I remember the next morning, I sent you guys the This Is Sports Center commercial with John Clayton, which is one of my favorite ones ever. He's like, Mom, I'm done with my segment. Legitimately one of the best This Is Sports Center commercials. But yeah, I always will appreciate his impact on the game, which I think, especially locally here, is massive. But I think in general, across the NFL, what he did for ESPN was amazing. And yeah, I'll miss him for sure. I think it's going to hit harder when we start the Seahawks season and kick that off, and just kind of knowing, knowing that he isn't there. I think it's going to be really, really tough. But yeah, what a legend, the professor.
It'll take some getting used to, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that is it for today. We went like an hour and a half, something like that. So that was really, really good as always. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Brandon, for a great show as always. And we'll see you back here next week.
Woo.